It always comes to this. More nice shit. Hello there, guys. Wanted to make a bit of a different video today. I've been meaning to make a video about this topic for a while and just haven't gotten around to it. / haven't had time and couldn't collect my thoughts. I don't have a script for these. I don't even plan these. I just kind of have a topic in mind and I kind of riff on it. So, and there's times in my life when certain things matter more to me than others. This week is a good time for me to make this video because I had a situation that put me in the mind frame of it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how much this industry is changing, how much it's changed since I started getting pierced, what it was like in those times and what it's like now. It's completely different, and you know, there still are some shops that are a lot like they were back in those days. And there's certainly tattooers still doing it that were doing it back in those days. But the old guard is kind of changing or being forced to change to a large degree. And where I work at this shop, I like to think that we're on sort of the cutting edge of that or the forefront of it. Where, you know, we have a shop manager. Before me, it was Kevin, the guy I did Remy reacts with. And before that, they went through a whole lot of other people until they found him. And you have a stable of artists that, you know, here it's a 50-50, 60-40, or 70-30 shop split for rates. A little insight on that is a lot of people think that when they pay $600 for a tattoo, just as an example, the artist gets all of it, but it always gets split. So there's a lot that goes into that, be it supplies, fees, and whatever percentage the shop takes, whatever the fuck else. Some of that is paying for a shop manager or a front girl or whatever the hell else they've got in there. That wasn't always the case. It used to be the case that you would go into a shop, you would hear some tattoo noises in the background, maybe some grunts and groans and some swearing or loud music playing, and no one greets you at the door. You send an email or call the shop and you never hear back from them. I remember waiting in waiting rooms of tattoo shops and no one ever comes out to greet you, and the overwhelming feeling was that if you make too much noise, you might get beat up and thrown outside in the dumpster. Back in the times when you got charged when you got charged, and it didn't have to make sense to you either. Like I remember going into shops just thinking like, there's no regulation at all. There's no industry to this. It's just, you know, whatever the hell this guy says it is, and that's the way it is. These days, the whole industry has changed so much. I always think that it's going through some sort of a Walmartification. But where we have with piercings, we have the APP, or Alliance of Professional Piercers. We still don't really have anything like that for tattooers, and it's really strange industry where a person's price and value is kind of whatever they say it is and whatever the market will bear. I mean, you could say that with most industries, but there's no agreed upon price. It's always seemingly whatever the hell that day. So you can see a black and gray portrait of, say, Anubis out there, and depending on who does it and what it looks like, it can have a completely different value. And that never used to be as big a deal as it is these days, I don't feel like. But now where most people are getting tattoos, it's more common to have a tattoo than it isn't. I feel like the industry is needing to have some kind of regulation, but so much of it is based on skill and the individual styles and different things that it's really, really difficult to break it down to a customer in a way that makes sense. And then there's also things like not understanding the difference in how long it takes to do one thing versus another and why that matters. Like, for example, if you get a realism piece in black and gray, it's going to take you a lot less time than it is to get it done by a color realism guy. But the color realism guy also might have a premium that is paid to him because it is quite rare to do that. Like, for example, in this city, there's only 2 artists that do color realism or that should be doing it. And those guys are pretty sought after because it's a bit of a niche here where we have tons of artists that specialize in black and gray. It seems like they're, every street corner, they're on every street corner. There's someone that's doing decently too. So there's a lot that doesn't make sense to people just coming into this industry, but I want to say how much better it is than when I started getting into this. Rick, the guy who tattoos me, currently does my my main project. I like to think that Terry is doing my secondary project and small jobs, but my main tattoo artist, Rick, is he's $210 an hour in this city, which is about as high as it goes here. Whereas there are other places like Kelowna, where my old tattooer Lee works. He has a $2,500 day rate, and people are more than happy to pay that. Here, if we charge someone over $1,000, you're breaking them. They can barely cough it up. So some of the price changes depending on the location too. Just by putting Rick in Kelowna, all of a sudden he would be like $100 more an hour. They've got apprentices starting up there for what some of our artists are making. Some of their apprentice artists make more than what Terry makes an hour up there. So some of that is where you live too. But when I got started with Rick way back in 2008 or whatever it was when he first tattooed me, I had been getting pierced by a guy, the same guy since 2000, either 2000 or 2001, and he moved over to his shop, and overall piercing prices haven't gone up that much, but that's just a side note. When I met Rick, it was like he was the only person in the city that was capable of doing really, really complex, really cool tattoos, and he booked up about 2 years. Like, he booked up to the place where if anything went wrong, he was like, imagine rescheduling all that. It was insane. So I like to keep our books within 2-3 months here for each artist. I don't really like going farther than that, but he was booked up about 2 months at that point. And so when people would book in with him, it was like you either have to pay that price or hit the road. So all of a sudden you can raise your price. So some of the price point goes up based on how far out an artist is, based on how sought after they are, and just the demand, right? Like, not everyone can do, and still to this day, not everyone in this city can do what a Rick can do. So he can get away with being a little bit more expensive, but also some of that old school tattoo stuff that I was talking about still in him. And I see it strange because we have a lot of young artists at the studio. We've got several apprentices here and a couple that are in between apprentice and resident or full-fledged artists. And they have a different understanding, different application, different mindset. Everything happens a little bit quicker with the newer artists, and there isn't often as much character behind the work either. So a lot of, like, Rick's craft was honed in a time when you really had a lot of personality in your work, where a lot of what's happening now is a lot of photocopying, and I'm not being a boomer. It's a reality that I see daily, that there's less inspiration in the work, but the work happens faster and it happens more above board. So for me, a lot of that old school stuff that happened seems to have ensured a certain quality as well, which I don't know that it's going to carry forward quite the same way. I think that the prevalence of social media, Instagram, TikTok, has kind of turned tattooing into a bit of a trend chasing game where before you would seek out a specific artist or a specific style of tattooing for its own merits or for your own reason. It seems to me now more and more people are they're being persuaded or pushed or kind of Pied Pipered into styles that they wouldn't have been in the past. Whatever's trending, like for example, I see a lot of people saying that blackout is super popular now, but I don't know that it actually is. I just think that those images trend really hard on Instagram. I've seen it myself. Even though a lot of people loved my first bodysuit, it didn't trend the way the blackout did. And I think it's because a lot of people don't understand it. Therefore, they comment a lot on it and they share it. And can you believe they did this and all that? And well, I don't understand this. People have a lot more to say about things they don't like. And so we end up seeing a lot more of them than we do. But I know here at the shop, we don't actually do a whole lot of blackout still. We do a lot of black and gray and a little bit of color and a lot of traditional stuff. And those still seem to be the popular ones. It's just what we see a lot of is things that, grab your attention more. So the industry is definitely changing day by day still. The styles that come and go, like I've seen people say that all kinds of things are the new tribal or this and that about what is the current trend. And I don't know that we can even make an accurate judgment of that. It seems to me that the same things are as popular. Like when I started getting tattooed, black and gray was really popular. It still is. I just think that social media makes us think that it's different than it is. Same thing I was talking about, that black symmetry, those bodysuits. I don't see those walking around town all the time. I don't see those ever. I don't see blackout here really ever either. But I see a lot of that stuff on social media, and I don't think it's because I'm asking for it necessarily. It's just that it seems to get people's focus, and so that's what we see more of. And I think that influences culture a little bit too and what people want. I'll be curious to see how that rolls out over the next few years, but yeah, I don't know. Just some random thoughts today. I know it's kind of an incoherent video. I've got a lot of thoughts on the industry, especially now being on the inside of it. I spent a lot of time just as a tattoo consumer, and the last year and a bit I've been working in a shop, and it's been really eye-opening as to like some of the misconceptions, like for example the whole price structure. Tattoo artists do get paid well, but they don't get paid as well as what people think they do. It's an interesting thing to watch at the counter, because there's a lot that goes into it behind the scenes that people don't see too. And while I'm not saying tattooers need to make more money, I do think that the money is about right, and I think a lot of people don't think that it is. And especially from where the industry was in the past to where it is now, and all the, the fact that you can come into a shop like this and be greeted, and your email gets responded to, and you don't get threatened, or you get an answer when you call. You get offered a water or coffee. There's a place to take a shit. Those are all things that weren't necessarily part of tattooing when I got into this. You don't have that fear that you used to have. And I'm not saying that was ever a good thing, but I'm saying the industry has come a long way from those days. And I think that paying maybe a little bit more than we once did isn't the worst thing. That being said, I don't think prices have gone up much here. I remember when I started getting tattooed, I think Rick was $160 an hour here. So he's only gone up about $50 over the last decade and a half. And when I consider how much chicken has gone up at the supermarket or a steak has gone up, it's not even comparable. So anyway, hope you guys have enjoyed this one. Bit of a different video today. I think I'm missing doing the podcast. This is stuff that I would have talked about on the Remy show back in the day. So maybe I'll have to start another podcast. I don't know. I don't know if there'd be an audience for it or not. All right, I'll talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day.